Hello everybody, this is the screencast of the 2018 Fall First Grade Dual Immersion Conference presentation. I did say I'd do this. I'm going to try to do one in Espanol a little bit later, and if you have any questions or need to refer back to this, we'll keep it available. Just let me know. So we'd like to start off with a little program overview. We'd like to remind you that our dual immersion program is kindergarten through 4th grade. Although there is currently an opportunity for students in the middle school to have a little bit of time maintaining their Spanish with a Spanish teacher, it is not immersion at the middle school. Spanish instruction time is 50% of the day, as is English instructional time, that is K4. They tend to, we teach the same subjects in each respective language, K2, and then there's a little change that we'll talk about later when kids get to 3rd and 4th grade. Our interventions, we have Spanish reading. We have Senora Morales, who serves as like a tier 2, so kids who need a little bit of extra support. And this year we're excited that we have Mrs. Mast, who can offer additional support to kids who are struggling with Spanish reading. And we also have English math interventions with Mrs. Moen and Mrs. Stark-Grable, and they help kids catch up when they fall a little bit behind in math. So our goals include for this program bilingual and biliterate students that allows them to get early completion of the requirements for high school credit in Spanish 1A and Spanish 1B if they take and pass the assessment at the end of 4th grade. That's pretty cool. Frees up a little bit of their time once they get to the high school, allows them to take some additional classes of interest, or gives them a little bit of elbow room for the classes that they take. We'd also like our students to be culturally competent, meaning that they understand the nuances of culture and can kind of get along with different groups of people. Just understanding, the language and the culture of those people. So some frequently asked questions we get: when does my child start learning English? Many kids start to read in English between the beginning of 1st and the end of 2nd grade just on their own. They just start doing it. It's pretty amazing. But some kids don't, and it takes until they get that literacy instruction in the 3rd grade before they start reading in English. Our homework policy is 20 minutes of any combination of math and reading per night. Please take advantage of language immersion opportunities. For example, we do have a Spanish language play that some middle schoolers are putting on the 6th of December at the Fine Arts Center. That could count towards their homework if they wanted to go watch that, or any other events or media that you can find to just get them immersed in the Spanish language. Math flashcards like Mrs. Smith has sent home, or any of our applications we use, iExcel, iStation, and other things. So when can you read in English with your child? Please do as much as possible. If English is your home language, just read to them like you would in any of your other children, or any kid at all. Keep them just kind of immersed in literacy. But please, the one thing we ask is that you do not teach them the English vowel sounds in 1st grade. We don't want them to get mixed up as they're still really acquiring those Spanish vowel sounds. You'll know when your kid is ready. They'll start doing it on their own. And then that's a point when it's really okay to kind of give them a little bit of instruction if you'd like to in the English vowel system. Some data points that we use are just to kind of check the progress of our students. Our NWEA, which is a computer adaptive assessment that's in both English and Spanish. We use running records, which is a time when a student sits down with a teacher. They read a book, the teacher marks their accuracy and then checks their comprehension. If the book is too easy, we move up. If it's too hard, we move down, and that gives us an idea of your student's your student's reading level. We do fluency quick checks. You see those come home. I want to see how many of any given type of syllable a student can read in 30 seconds. And then there are math recovery assessments that Mrs. Smith does with the students. She sits individually with them and gives them some different numerical problems or counting problems, and checks for particular areas of development with number sense and structuring number and things like that. The scope and sequence of our program is the same with kindergarten, first, and second grades. You can see on the left-hand column subjects that they receive in English, and on the right-hand subjects they receive in Spanish. There is a change in the third and fourth grade with reading and writing and spelling going over to English and math and science going over to Spanish. This year we're thankful that we have Señorita Nunez, who is a new teacher working with the third and fourth split, who is also able to implement some Spanish language arts. At this point, if you'd like to look at your first grade progress report, you'll notice that at the top, first thing you'll see is your child's reading level. The current expectation is a level E, but keep in mind that's for all students in all classrooms, English only. So for students who are in an immersion bilingual setting, they tend to be a little bit behind at this point. And if you did your research before putting your student in this program, you would have noticed that it's very, very typical that students are behind at the beginning and they catch up a little bit later as they're developing bilingual literacy skills. If you go down a couple spaces, you'll see their writing score. That is also very indicative of what I just said, that writing right now is extremely tricky for students. They're still developing skills to be able to produce the language they need for writing. So almost all of our students are what we would consider below grade level at this point. You will see a lot of growth the remainder of the year, and a lot of them will be where they need to be by the end of the year. Above that one, you'll see their math progress from Mrs. Smith, and then below you'll see their social skills. There may be a couple different areas that are highlighted with different color. That's because maybe Mrs. Smith and I have a little bit of a different opinion as to what we see in our classrooms. And then the bottom in the next page you'll see the units that we'll be studying in the next marking period. Also attached to this are some assessments that students have taken and a game that Mrs. Smith has put together if you'd like to try this Spill the Cup game at home. So I'm going to talk a little bit about first grade reading. The progression we follow are letter sounds. We make sure that they have all those sounds they learned in kindergarten, and then we immediately hammer these open syllables, and that takes probably the most time of our first half of the school year. We move into closed syllables, blended syllables. In the second half of the year, we work really hard on fluency and comprehension. Open syllables are a consonant with a vowel. They can appear like this, p, a, make pa, or they can appear inverted. We want them to recognize these open syllables just as they would have recognized a letter sound in kindergarten. So I want to get them to the point where they are no longer saying p, a, pa. I want them to see pa and just say pa. There's your example of inverted syllable. And we look at closed syllables. This is tricky because kids are used to a consonant preceding a vowel sound, so they want to stick another vowel sound in there. So when we have pa and we add n, kids want to say pa-na, because they're just used to hearing that vowel sound. So we have to train them that, nope, that's just pan, and there's no vowel sound appearing, there's no letter to represent that, so it's not there. Blended syllables is a piece we're working on right now. Again, they want to insert a vowel sound between those two consonants in the beginning. So in this example, we have pull followed by a to make pla. A lot of kids will say pala because they want to put that vowel sound in there. Then we work on things like diphthongs, where there are two vowels that go together to make one sound. In this case, E and O say yo in the word radio. And we put it all together to be able to read larger words, read with more fluency. We focus on a few irregularities, and we focus a lot on comprehension the second half of the year. And that's kind of just the procession of things that we follow in first grade to get students where they need to be for second. So the MAPS math test, this is something Mrs. Smith put together for you. This bar graph should have been in your child's folder. It's taken 3 times per year. It's normed, meaning that we're looking at where your child scored compared to every other kid in the nation that took this score, or this test, pardon. You'll find these fluency, fact fluency graphs that your kid is making in their folder. You would have seen their scores likely go up, and then there's a sharp drop, and they go up and there's another sharp drop, and that's just because once they've mastered a particular skill, they start working on the next one, so naturally they're going to go back down because it's a new skill they're working on. This would have been in their folder just to kind of show you where they're at for their structuring number and what their goal is. The Spill the Cup game was also included. And that is the end of our presentation. If you have any questions about this, please feel free to send me a message or give me a call. Otherwise, hope to see you at the next one. Have a good day.